Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great episode of the REDX podcast. I'm Robert Sullivan. I'll be your host today, but that's not important. What's important is today we have Brian Icenhower here with us. Brian, say hi to our audience. We're excited to have you here.
Hey, everybody. Hi, Robert. Great to be here as always. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we'll have you back and some more. We love it when Brian's here. We'll get into that. Before we jump into everything, we just want to welcome everybody that's joining right now. And as people are hopping on, say hi in the comments. This is a participatory event, so if you have any questions, let us know. We'll try to get to them in the show. If we don't get to them there, then we'll continue that conversation on Facebook, and you can find us in our REDX page on Facebook, or anything that we discussed today, any materials we go over. You can also find those materials, more about the podcast and upcoming guests at redx.com/podcast. But that's all for after the show. And for more information, we're here today with Brian. We were actually just a bunch of our guys. I didn't get to go, but a bunch of our guys got to hang out with Brian last week. He had a great event going on. Brian is an amazing coach, and we're excited to have you here. Brian, for those that might not know you, most probably do, but if you could just give us a quick introduction, and then we'll jump in and talk about teams and diversifying your strategy.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Thanks. It was great having you guys at our annual conference too. I have I'm the founder and of a real estate coaching and training company, and we've got a team of coaches. We've got about 35 coaches, and we coach hundreds of the highest producing agents, teams, and broker managers pretty much across North America, a little bit beyond. There's an international feel, I suppose. And we also create a lot of training systems, online training platforms for a lot of them and their teams, and the general public as well, where they can learn or use to train the people in their brokerages, their teams, a variety of different lead generation sources and techniques, and put all their training materials on there as well too. But that's where I think it's so important right now. I mean, especially with where the real estate market are and where teams are at this current moment, it really does seem that diversification of lead generation sources, timely for my company and yours too, yeah, Robert. It just so happens that we have that tonic to solve the problem.
Oh, and I think that's just a great way to segue into what we're talking about. And well, first thing I want to say this about Brian. I talk to coaches and top producing agents every week, every day, really, here at REDX. And but Brian taught a FSBO strategy last year that is to date the best FSBO strategy out there, I think, and shared some materials on how to help them out. And we're not going to get into that today. You'll have to go back and look in the archives and find that, or maybe we'll have you back. But I've learned from Brian with all of the coaches that I have on, and so I'm excited to have you here. And kind of where we wanted to start is, and we'll go where this takes us, but where we've been talking about is real estate teams and the importance of diversifying right now. But maybe you can even just start by helping all of us understand your thoughts, because you're in industry every day, on where we're at as an industry and what agents, maybe there's some that are fearful right now, maybe there's some that are hopeful, but just kind of share what you've been sharing with your coaches about where we're at.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen, industry-wide, the amount of sales volume, despite home prices remaining quite resilient and stable, the amount of total sales volume has declined to very low levels over the last couple of years, and that has decreased the available commission dollars from the very peak. And mind you, it was a high peak. Also stimulated by a lot of COVID and motivation for people to move, put it up there quite high. But we're seeing sales volume drop quite a bit, 25% for the current year. And we're likely going to see a pretty dark winter. There's still a lack of inventory. There's been still some settling in on the interest rates. There's some uncertainty in the economy. There's all those things, but most are, on the horizon. A lot of people, myself included, think it's going to be a very active spring of 2024. So I do like that, but I'll tell you right now, here's the problem. And this was our talk at our real estate conference, because at ICC, Icenhower Coaching and Consulting, we do have the pleasure of coaching so many of the highest producing agents, teams, and brokerage owners in any community. So they get together and they talk, and they have this really good pulse. So all the leaders of those forces come together, and it's kind of generally the same everywhere. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of neat to hear from them and collaborate on this. And one of the things we're talking about is so important to get into growth. If we get into a perspective where we're just cutting costs and quitting here and moving companies or moving teams, those are all lateral moves. The key is we've got to get back to work, and teams do that one of two ways. At least the leader does. Okay. The leader does. And these are okay. Both of these are okay with me. Okay. Number one, we are going to talk about diversifying their lead sources here, but this has to do with the market. Here's what they've done or are currently doing or will start doing. Here's a prediction that's just going to shake a lot of people. Here's how you get a B in my grace, not an A, but you get a B. You get through it okay. I got you. Bump fish, you bump. Let's go. Here's how you get an A. If you didn't do one of these two things, you just cut a bunch of costs. We took a lot of steps back that we have to go forward on if you still want to get more income and get more leverage and not working as much down the future as an owner of a company. So what we're doing as we push forward for more income through increased lead generation sources and more leverage through training other people or pushing ourselves is to try to generate more income through others. Yet when the income source drops down, we get a little bit lazy, and then it's time to push. Otherwise, we start firing people. We can start laying people off in our brokerage, on our team. We can start going backwards. We can start discontinuing marketing. We can cancel lead sources, marketing sources, advertising sources, all that. That's going the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Now you're just securing a future where you work harder and harder. And your springs and summers every year are a nightmare. Even though that's the time you want to spend with your family or doing whatever you want to do, you're going to have to push through the winter and the fall to keep yourself balanced, to keep your organization balanced. We have to teach your agents to do that. And there's lots of ways to do it, and they all work, and they've already been here too. And the fact that they could be new to your team, it just adds another pillar to diversify through a long winter. Last winter was that way for a lot of people too. Yeah. And we found that, we were spending a lot of our team. We didn't realize how many of our big teams weren't capitalized. Like they didn't save months of operating income. So they didn't have to slash all the tires to get through a very slow winter due to seasonality. And then, suddenly increasing rates and low inventory, all that. They just didn't have the money in reserve. So we're working through that. And then we're also working through, well, wait a minute, how do we keep these agents occupied in the business? Because a lot of people are going to move right now. A lot of agents are going to jump around and go, grass is always greener because it's tough. How do we ensure they're A, coming to our team, and B, making sure ours are active and productive? Well, we got to teach them how to lead generate, right? We got to diversify, right? So all these new sources at ICC, we provide them training in all the sources. And then, of course, we partner with you guys all the time. And you're right. The source of so many of their sources. And I think other people can learn from that too. That way, when we come out of this thing, plus you're going to have a lot of fishing poles in the water when we get over a big school of fish in spring or summer of 2024. Because boy, you're going to have lots of people that are lead generating and you're going to be ready to go and you're going to pick it all up. But if you're still discontinuing or rolling up your sleeve and getting into production more yourself, or you started showing buyers again, or you started even taking listings again, or you know what I mean, you fired your buyer's agents, who knows? I give you a B, but you're not an A. An A is really tough. They're rare. And that's kind of what we've been doing with our clients, is getting them not to take a bunch of stuff forward, not to cut a lot of costs, continue to leverage, to continue to step out of production, continue to grow, continue to recruit, continue to add lead sources, and just run real lean. And the ones that are capitalized or could quickly get capitalized did that, and they continued to grow through that. And we saw a lot of those in my conference. And that's so, regardless, it doesn't really, that's an A. I mean, keep on doing what you're doing, fist bump, just diversify further if you want. We're going to show you how. And for the B's out there, great job, man. You kept it alive. You went back to sleep. That's why I gave you a B, but you do have to get caught up and put some pieces back, because you cut back a little bit,
Yeah. And I think that's super important, because we are thinking about time in the market when it is going to slow down a bit, but we're expecting it to get busy again. And if you slow down when the market slows down, then you're going to be behind when the market picks back up. And so that is what we're talking about, right? Is like, so how do we not slow down when the market's slowing down? What strategies and tactics should people be looking at right now, even though it's going to get a little bit slower, so that their business stays consistent through the seasonality, but also is ready to go in the fall when things are expected to pick back up?
Right. Well, I mean, there's a bevy, and it really depends on what your team or even agent, what you're doing right now. Right. So so let me tell you what, at its core, we always coach our agents, even on any team, to always be working their sphere of influence and building that, that. I just want to make sure I get that out of the way.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of obvious.
No matter what you do,
and it's right, but I just want to make sure. So we are always making sure every agent on the team is always developing and growing their sphere, staying in contact with it, whether it's really working or not, I don't know. But if they're doing the activity, we want to make sure that they're doing that. And that's a focus on our team. We're not getting them wholly dependent on some outside lead source, just not healthy, and you'll generate too much team turnover. So we always want to make sure they're building their SOI. And part of that will be done through their prospecting efforts, and that, but we want to also have them doing some efforts outside of that. Right.
Yeah.
And then we've got a bunch of different ways to generate leads on top of that. And there's tons of them. And the most popular recently has been online leads, purchasing online leads. And, a lot of that industry has really boomed. I'm dating myself, but I've been in it for more than 3 decades. I'm in my 4th decade. And I'm also, that makes me a Gen Xer, which means I'm that unique guy that's split evenly in between pre-internet, post-internet. So I'm techie, but I still remember and use cassette tapes, so it's kind of that. So the online lead became very popular kind of when Teams became popular, to be perfectly honest with you. And it really wasn't, I mean, they were around, but I don't think they were a big deal until 2007, 8, somewhere in there. That's when they got real big. That's when the concept got real big. And they still are big, and I still like them. And I'm not saying they're bad, but they're kind of a problem right now, right? Because there's less people looking online, higher interest rates, there's less to look at, you know what I mean? There's less, all of a sudden they're not as, there aren't as many of them. They're not as reliable source.
Yeah.
And which is okay, because to me, I mean, people call them, it's like, well, it's people that want to look for houses online. It kind of, yeah. They may not want to use you or see them, or, they may not, you know what I mean? They may not want you to call them, depending on the type of lead online. that you're getting. I will tell you this: you will have to call to convert that lead a lot more time.
Yep.
And that's the case with inbound marketing or inbound
Yep.
prospecting. They call it prospecting for a reason, and that's because you are calling these leads that allegedly want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And some of them do, many do not, right? Do you have that graphic?
Yeah, let's pull it up. And we do have people just listening, so we'll walk through the graphic.
Let me just show you all these, just to give you an idea here. It's a lot. I call this the online lead source funnel. We use this when we coach some of our, ISA teams for our clients, or any solo agent prospecting as well too. They'll take a look at this as an option, but understands a lot more phone calls than outbound prospecting, right? A whole lot more. So I just want to I always put the reality out there to people that think that buying a bunch of leads is going to do it for them.
Yeah.
It does work very well, but it's going to take a lot of work too. Understand that. I always think you're going to get like a, you get what you pay for.
That's right.
So, at the top, if you're doing forced registration leads are up here at the top, right? There's Facebook forced registration and Google forced registration. Those are Google pay-per-click. So you're paying for leads to be run on Facebook or Google, and you got to do it right. There's people that do that and themselves, and there's pros that know how to do it. So we got to make sure we got a pro that knows how to do it. That's number one. So you will have to pay for them, right? But those are very low conversion rates. We're talking, typically most top teams on the Facebook, they get a 1 to 2% conversion rate, which means you get 100 leads. They may give you 100 leads. Okay. Just understand that only 1 to 2 of them is going to be any good. 98% is really, really bad.
And something else on the chart is that it's 1 year out. So they're still not immediate closing, right?
Absolutely. You got to stay with them. So you have to have organized CRM systems and processes to stay with them over time so that you have a follow-up campaign, because it's all follow-up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, actually, in theory, your first call is supposed to be follow-up. And understand those are forced registration, which means, someone wants to see a house online somewhere that was marketed by whoever you're paying to market these, wherever you get these forced registration leads. It's the vast majority of them. It's your cheapest leads, right? Usually anywhere from $6 to $10 to $12 a lead, and they're usually through your CRM company, or you can buy them just about anywhere, and they'll market them for you and generate leads for you, and they will come, and either way, they have to give their phone number and or their email address. They're forced to register to actually look at the homes. And boy, tons of people do it. It is kind of crazy, but they do. And then you call them and they're like, whoa, I didn't ask for any help or anything. So it is a low conversion rate for that reason. And the same is true with Google PPC. It's a little higher conversion rate because at least on Google, people are like typing in words like, hey, show me some houses in that area. So, it's people that are actually not expecting to see, an advertisement for a house pop in their news feed on Facebook, right? Premium portal leads, when you move down to the third level, they're a little bit sooner. They're 3 months out, but I mean, those are freaking, $200 a lead. We're talking Zillow, stuff like that. Conversion rate's still pretty low though. I mean, it's, like I look at that 7 to 12% conversion rate on a lot of those. I would say on average, you can do better. We definitely have a lot of teams we coach to do better than that. But I mean, even that, wow, can you imagine getting five leads you don't convert in a row? And you're paying $250, let's say, depending on where you live, for each of them or something like that. Or you could be doing their referral program if you're in one of their select areas. But again, you're paying 35% sometimes on that. And then you move down to Google local service ads where you're actually getting paid per referral. You should definitely sign up with Google to do that. But those are come few and far between. You got to have tons of reviews, like some top teams. You got to really work on getting your Google reviews up. And when they come, you just pay as they come. And those are great. but you better be number one in your area on reviews, or number two or number three, which means you're going to need hundreds, and then some metros, thousands of them. But if you do, you will get tons of listings.
Yeah.
That's why we throw them out there to listings and buyers. But that's what that is. Either way, other than paying a gazillion dollars or getting number one on reviews over 2 or 3 years, online leads are very low conversion rates. Outbound prospecting, totally different. Now we can get that screen off. We can
All right. Yeah.
stop this.
Yeah. So now, we'll talk about diversifying then, or what we find with our what we can have our teams doing on an outbound effort.
Because I love that. I love outbound prospecting. It works, and a lot of teams do use it. And then that's how they get their team's feet wet. But they're calling a ton, and then they're moving up and putting them on the premium portals. Maybe if they get really good at their conversion rates or something like that, that's fine, and that's good, and that works. And tons of people's teams do that. But now other teams are saying, you know what, why not start outbound prospecting, adding divisions, having my ISAs start doing it? Why not prospect? There are not nearly as many calls. It's worked for years. It works really well right now. It's been working. It's just because it's been going for a while, and technology has made it very good, very easy, very effective. Really has made it high tech. So we've been pushing people that direction in a big way, and that's all we're doing. All my coaches are on it, and we're trying to get them out there training and coaching. It just so happens we help with those materials, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, so we're pushing everybody, get more, fishing poles in the water. Let's start pushing and moving right now with all the different sources out there. That's the plan,
And I like this idea of all the fishing poles in the water, right? Especially if we're looking at, hey, we do expect a little bit of a slowdown and honestly a return to seasonality, right? The seasonality used to be common since COVID and where the market just went nuts. It you didn't see it as much the last couple of years, but we're expecting this return to seasonality, a slow winter. And so you put all these fishing poles out there, you put all these different, not just online, not just expires, not FSBOs, but trying all of them at the same time. So then when spring comes around, you've got a full pipeline and the market starts to get back in the seasonality of recovery.
Right. Yeah. I mean, now imagine, we're really working out with outbound prospecting. It really should be done with inbound prospecting as well, too, if you're buying leads as well, too. But we're helping the agents. We do need to track, and we do need to have dashboards, but all of a sudden our scoreboards for our team. So every week, our teams or even our brokerages too, they're meeting with either agents individually or their productivity coaches are meeting with them, or the agents are, and we're looking at dashboards, and you can see different agents and are doing different lead generation sources. It's not just the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So many agents don't diversify. They've got their SOI in there. Maybe they're taking some online leads. Maybe they're taking some Zillow leads. But what if, why not prospect for expireds? Why not prospect for FSBOs, like you said? You know what I mean? Why not around open houses? Have your team calling around open houses, and we're tracking that on the dashboard. Each of these different ones, where we're calling around, trying to generate other sellers, other interest to it. What's your product for that? You've got
GeoLeads. Yeah.
GeoLeads. Yeah, I love that one too. So, you get their email addresses, you get their phone numbers, you can even door knock around them and too with all this information. There's so many different ways to lead generate around your open houses, look like a rock star to your sellers from a customer service standpoint, that you do all this, because you believe that you ultimately find the buyer from the house oftentimes is a friend or family member if somebody already lives in the neighborhood. So you're marketing around that too. You're not just going to put a sign in the yard waiting for some other agent to do it. You're gonna beat the bushes and try to get multiple offers going. Get their price up. So we're going to show how hard we work as a customer service around these. It's kind of the same concept with farming too. We're using geo leads in a geographic area. It's a way to create a farm actually. Get in there, everybody get your name.
Yep, exactly.
So you successfully sell, you show proof of that, just sold size type of stuff, it becomes yours, right? those geo leads become powerful because now we can, we can market, to them in advance of the open house. And it's all coming across as customer service you provide for their neighbor whose home you have listed, right?
Yeah.
You can set them up on listing e-alerts with your MLS or your CRM system. But to do that, you have to have all their email addresses. You're gonna get a large percentage of those through geo leads.
Yeah.
And that's it's just powerful what you can do from a marketing around open houses, from a farming that people don't know about. And here's a winter that's cold. Why not set up those systems? Why not coaching on how to get that set up? Why not get some administrative support to start setting it up? Why don't you yourself start setting it up? Why don't we start training the agents on it? Why don't we choose one of these different sources as well too? Diversifying all these, it could be getting a luxury agent on your team, a luxury division targeting certain higher price. And that's really, the way we typically do that is we got to assume the luxury agent has some sort of social luxury database already, or we're going to target a geographic neighborhood that's luxury. Yeah. If we're going to do that, then again, we're just back to the database and farming. It's just, we're going to maybe do things a little fancier.
And so I've got a question, and it might be a little up because we're talking about diversifying and trying all of the different areas. But are you getting any feedback from your coaches that that there's a specific lead type or specific type of prospecting that's doing really well right now? Or is for sure the message, have a team, or even as an individual, like you said, keep all the fishing poles in the water, do as many as you can?
I'll be honest with you. They all are doing pretty well right now. They really are. They're all pretty balanced. I think it depends where you live, though. If there's an area, if you're in a luxury market, or in an area that, luxury is very fickle, right? So, luxury gets overvalued pretty quickly. And when they start saying the word recession in the overall economy, even though prices are pretty stable in the real estate industry, people in luxury areas, they see all their 401ks going down and things like that. So they tend to not buy and they stay put, right? So less of them sell.
Yeah.
Right. So less of them sell, and that brings median home prices in certain areas, and that so luxury can be a little tougher in certain markets in those. But prospecting for expires in those areas are fabulous. So anytime listings aren't going to sell, so people are just sitting, and a lot of people have tried it this last summer, and it's been tougher in a lot of luxury markets, right?
Yeah.
I don't, would depend, especially real like Los Angeles, you know what I mean? Like the high end West Los Angeles, tough, if it's in the fancier regions, expireds have been fabulous in those. We had some, it is crazy. I was talking to one guy. He prospects for expireds in West LA. His average price, people think, oh, that's trashy, that's expired telemarketing. His average price is $5 million.
Oh my goodness.
Calling expires. Is he a luxury agent? I don't know. Is your average price $5 million? He sells about,
I know.
He sells about 30 of them a year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's, you know what I mean? He's got a couple buyer side agents, and it goes from there. And how powerful is that, though? It just works everywhere. But there's so any place, other places where expired works are, like the Boise, Idahos, or any or the Austins, places that got a little overinflated.
Yeah.
On prices, like this whole, maybe too many people from California came to your particular city or something, whatever brought them, drew the prices up. Too much, maybe Nashville, I don't know, any places where, certainly your luxuries, but, generally speaking, you're okay if you get close to the median home price. But if you get too far above the median home price, those prices are unstable, which means there's a lot of expired. There's people have been waiting too long that didn't sell, and they've been waiting and they still haven't. They didn't sell at all. Now they want to. And, calling those old expires is very, very powerful right now. There's tons of those. People just uncertain what to do, but they've been sitting still way too long, and there's tons of those. So that's probably the most popular, unique one. But we have success with expires in every market. the whole
Yeah.
idea that it fluctuates that much. No, because more and more people will start doing this, and you have more competition for them and things like that. But I think they're great. I think that if I can say with expires, a lot of people don't know this about me, but if I were to go back to, I haven't sold real estate in forever, but if I were to go back to selling real estate myself, I would quickly work on my sphere of influence, and I would prospect for expires. That's what I would do to this day.
Yeah.
I've seen it all, and I just think I can get the most listings, which I want more than buyers. That's another thing about outbound prospecting. You can get listings where on board, you do get some sellers.
Yeah.
You're getting buyer sides, which is much less valuable. More listings.
Sellers where it's at. Yeah.
Listings are a lot less time and a lot more money, man. And, but I'd prospect for expires because I think if you do it correctly, if you master the skills, which does take time and practice and a lot of frustration where most people quit. If you get good at it, it's the least work to get a listing in real estate. I'll just say that right now.
I love that.
It's the best, but you got to get good at it. So I'm a big fan of it, and I like it. That's what I would do. It's not for everybody, but it does work. And we coach and train these all at ICC, every single one of them, because our clients either do it or they have to teach their agents to do it too. So we provide all the systems and REDX helps us do that.
And we do have people that want to know more about you, and we're running a little bit out of time here too. So where can they go to find out more about your coaching? People that want to find out more about you, about your coaching, where should we be sending people?
Go to our website, Icenhower Coaching. That's ICENHOWER coaching.com.
All right.
Simple as that. Go check us out.
And then what's the last word as your a word of wisdom as we wrap up today, Brian?
Man, stay growth oriented and get busy in the fall. Focus on the activities. Figure out what you're going to do to generate a lot of business. Remember, this is from a Californian to all of you. You must be paddling hard to catch the wave when it comes in spring in 2024. But you got to be paddling. So let's do that this winter.
I love it. Brian, thank you so much for being on. Everyone who's joined us now live or is listening after the fact, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, thank you for joining in. Thank you for listening, and find out more, anything that we've talked about today, and a special offer for you can find at redx.com/podcast. And we'd love to see you there and see what's upcoming so we can catch you next week as well. Everyone, Brian, again, thank you so much for your time, and everyone else have a great rest of your week.